Hey, how's it going, everybody? My name is SockBot, and today I'm going to be talking about my impressions of Dreams so far. This is not a first impressions video, because if you have been following me for a while, you know I post a lot about Dreams, though not quite a lot recently, because I've been working really hard on certain games that may or may not be featured on this channel in the future, but I do post quite a bit on Dreams, and this is not a first impressions video. That being said, it is definitely not a review, because, well, the game isn't out yet. We're still in early access, but I have a lot of thoughts on where Dreams is, and none of them really fit a sort of tutorial type video, so that's where this one comes in my sort of impressions review of Dreams so far, and the state of the game as a whole. So if you like that sort of thing, feel free to subscribe and like the video if you like the video, and feel free to stick around for the rest if you want to see the rest. But if you just came here to see me say hi and see my new ring light and my new hair, that's cool too. Little weird, but also, hey, what's up? So yes, like I said, today is going to be a sort of impression/state of the game in my personal opinion. You don't have to agree with me, but that's what this video is about. So when I was starting with Dreams content, which it's actually been quite a while now because I made videos on this way back when they first announced Dreams.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? My name is SockBot, and today I'm going to be talking a little bit about this game called Dreams, which is by the creators of Little Big Planet Media Molecule.
But when I really started making content sort of surrounding the beta and what I expected the game to be, a lot of what I said was calling Dreams the spiritual successor to Little Big Planet, and frankly, it is, to a very, very certain extent, because the extent to which it has succeeded Little Big Planet is quite large, and the difference between the games is far more than I ever expected. And I don't mean in terms of logic, and I don't mean in terms of visuals, and I don't mean in terms of, well, all the other very obvious things that are different about the game, lacking a main character so far, but in the sense that creating in it feels very different. In Little Big Planet, it was very easy to just jump in with an idea you had in your mind that you wanted to, kind of barf out onto the screen and create a game out of. And it was quite simple. I mean, it probably took between 20-30 hours if you were really working on it, but it was quite simple to get a level in your head and create it from start to finish and, play test it enough for it to be a feasible level that people would play and be like, oh yeah, that was good, that was complete, that felt finished. But with Dreams, it's quite different. Though there is a community surrounding it making this much easier, Dreams levels are far more complicated. And though initially I did expect Dreams to be way more difficult, I mean, I literally made a video called Dreams is going to be difficult, why that's okay, and I stick by that video, but I don't think I realized the extent to which it was going to be more difficult and how that would affect how I create levels. And so when I do start something in Dreams, generally it's not with the intent of creating an entire game. And I think that's the same for a lot of people. A lot of people don't really have the ridiculous amount of time that it requires to create assets for themselves, create characters for themselves, create music for themselves, and all these sorts of things to make their entire game by themselves. I mean, like I've talked about in many videos before, most game studios have many people working on those teams to create these games that we actually play on PlayStation and Xbox and PC and Switch and all the other things. And we are just one person. And so it is not really feasible for one of us to create an entire game start to finish. Well, maybe I shouldn't say one of us, because I'm sure there are people out there doing that, but anybody else that doesn't actually play Dreams for a job, which, no, I don't. I mean, you've seen my subscriber count, I don't do that. But it's just, that's not what it is made for. It's not made for a person that is going to start and finish something entirely by themselves. That's entirely possible, but they focus so much on the sharing aspect because they realize that when you go in and you create something within Dreams, generally you're only creating part of a game. Whether it be a character, or whether it be some sort of asset other than a character, like the music, the sound effects, the various tiles that you will use to create your levels. And I've talked a lot about assets in the past, but this is part of what you go into a stage to create. You don't really go in most of the time expecting to start and finish a game within a set amount of time. That being said, this is my experience, and it's not my entire experience, because this is the majority of what I spent time in Dreams doing so far. Creating different art pieces, creating different sculpts, creating different, scenes, but not necessarily creating everything at once. Granted, it is still early on. I think that this is what the majority of people going into Dreams are going to go through, is going in with all of these crazy ideas, but kind of having to limit the scope of what you're trying to create. And I found myself quite disappointed by that, to be perfectly honest, but I'm not disappointed with the game in general. That part has just been back and forth with me. It feels like every time I go in to create something within Dreams, I either end up having a fantastic time or end up being really frustrated and kind of sad that I couldn't create everything that I wanted to. And part of that has to do with my expectations, but also a bigger part of that is not really having the inspiration that came with all of the pre-made assets that we got within Little Big Planet. Now, Media Molecule is coming out with assets left and right for various different, kind of level packs, I guess you could call them, similar to how we got in Little Big Planet, but without all of the main story mode and without all of these assets from the beginning, having the daunting task of creating our own assets has led me multiple times to disappointment. And with the small set of assets we have so far, including all the ones created by users, including the ones created by Media Molecule, there's just like a sense of something is missing. And I don't think that that is the game itself, and this is where we're going to get into my expectations for the future of Dreams. Right now, when you want to create a level, when you have an idea in your mind, I find it quite difficult to start and finish something, to start and finish a level, to start and finish a game in its entirety by yourself, as I said before, with what we have so far. But I think this is going to change, and my reasoning for this is similar to like in Little Big Planet, where we had the materials, where we had the soundtracks, the different music that you could pick from, where you had Sackboy, where you had all the different characters from the Little Big Planet franchise. We had all that kind of from the beginning, and that helped a lot. It stopped you from having to think about every single aspect of a level. And though I've talked about this before, again, I think the extent to which this was the case had not clearly shown itself in my mind. And I think so far I've just been assessing the game as it is. And I'm excited to report that based on the level pack that was just released, and based on what we know is coming with the full story mode of Dreams, we're going to have a lot easier of a time creating levels in the future. And the reason for this is all of these assets, all of the characters, all of the terrain, all of the music that we get from these future level packs and from the game as a whole is going to make it feel a lot more like the original Little Big Planets did. It's going to feel a lot more like you have all of these building blocks and you're putting them together to create something unique, rather than you're literally starting with a painting and trying to work through how to make that painting move and play and it be interesting and speak and play music behind it and create all of this stuff from scratch with a bigger sort of assets that we know are quality, that we know are created by real game designers, that we know are created by experienced game designers. I guess everyone's a real game designer if you're making something this game, but once we have all of these together, and again, the large assortment is very important, we will have something to, one, start with inspiration from. For example, if you don't have something in your mind that you want to create, but you do want to create, a lot of what I used to talk about in Little Big Planet is using the assets that are there and kind of being inspired by them. Well, getting the story mode, especially once the game is fully released, and also the different asset packs are going to be very inspiring for a lot of people. Me in particular, because I know when the second I saw the newest level pack, I was like, oh my gosh, I want to create a pirate fantasy with that. But especially with the characters and the music itself, because those are the two things that I find most difficult to work on, we're going to have a lot of things to choose from, a lot of things to be inspired by. So that's one. But two is we're also going to have all of these assets to fulfill the fantasy that you come into the game wanting to create. So, for example, I spent a lot of time thinking of various different levels that I want to make based on certain things. So, for example, I was playing Cuphead a lot recently for my second playthrough because I never finished the final boss because, well, I decided 45 attempts was enough for that night, but I was playing a lot of Cuphead, and I thought, what would be a really cool art style to make a game like this in? And instead of going for that, early 1900s cartoon style, the thing that came to mind was Nickelodeon cartoons, because they do have an inherent style to them, especially that sort of Rugrats, Hey Arnold style, where it's kind of like flat, but also, very well drawn. That sort of art style mixed with a sort of Cuphead type gameplay was something that I started drawing some, I guess, inspiration for, and I will flash that on screen here if I can find my notebook on that. But that is something that I did want to create, and even though it's so specific, even though, I mean, it's frankly copyrighted content, using that as an inspiration, I know that if we had larger sets of assets, if we had more terrain, if we had more characters, if we had more abilities for these characters, and a lot more pre-made logic, I would be able to piece together something that really starts to represent what I'm going for. And then if I don't quite reach what I want in the end, I know that I can go back and I can make those manual edits. I can really get down and dirty with the different stuff that I want to be very, very particular towards the vision I'm going for. And once I have that vision and then I start doing those minute details, that is a much different process than basically starting with nothing, than having to worry about those minute details from the onset of everything like that. And this is going to bring back that sense of being able to just jump in and start creating and start, putting your vision into practice, into a full game. And I think that is going to drastically change what Dreams is as a game. And so, as of now, I am absolutely loving the game, and I think that this is great time to practice and great time to just create things that you want to create, but I don't think it's a particularly great time to be creating full games. I think that is going to come later on in the cycle, and though there are thousands of assets on the online service for Dreams that you can definitely pull from, that you can definitely create your fantasy from, it's not at the point where I think a lot of people will be comfortable and happy creating levels like this. And that isn't to say that it's not worth trying out. I just don't think the purpose of Dreams at this exact moment is, for most people, to create games. And if you're disappointed by that, as I have been in the past, the point of this video is largely to say, hold on a second, and just stick it out. It's going to be a lot different once the full game is released, and I am personally incredibly excited for that. At the time being, I'm going to do as much as I can to, well, kind of surpass that. I'm having a great time with the game. I don't mind creating things entirely from scratch, but it's just, the vibe of this is not the mass appealing vibe. The vibe of this is a very artistic vibe at the time, and not being an artist myself, I can see how that can be frustrating for certain people, and I've also heard the game designer side of it, but I'm going to talk more about how Dreams is a good game designing tool for non-game designers, but that's in a future video. This one was largely just the, hey guys, stick it out. We got a lot coming. What's that one? Insert the video here of that one really creepy personal ad from Comcast Digital Cable or whatever it was from. But anyways, that is just what I wanted to talk about today. It's a bit of a rambling video, but I think I got my thoughts on this out, and also you got to see what is very obviously a better lighting setup rather than I had previously. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to leave a like down below. If you guys have any opinions on this, or if you completely agree with me, let me know in the comments down below. Feel free to leave a like. Feel free to subscribe if you want to see more. All that stuff. I won't bore you with it, but have a wonderful day. I will talk to you guys in the next video. But for now, goodbye.